All right, M.A.S. Movies and Shows, Cholo Trucker here. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and make the confession why we are so late for those that are watching this live. And that is because I did not hit the live button 2 times, which you're supposed to do. I only hit it once. So we're having a conversation while we were not live for about a good 15 to 17 minutes, man. Nonetheless, gracias for being here. My apologies. So let's have some flaming hot talk with some flaming hot people. From Salinas, California, you can find your convicted hearts. One, Miss Jen Magana.
Hey, everybody. Glad you can join us. Hey, Cholo, how are you?
Glad good, to be good. Here. I feel like we went over this already.
Deja vu, yeah.
Man, if you are from the Bay Area, he is down south. If you are from Los Angeles, he is up north. Here to let you know, don't forget about Central Cali from Two-Face Entertainment. No, he is not about to be executed by the Taliban. His background just has a green screen. One, Mr. Fred Segura.
Hey, Fred.
Hey guys. Hey, Jen. How you guys doing?
What's going on, man?
Good, brother. Good. Hey, didn't we do this already? No, I'm
right.
kidding.
That's right.
Yeah. So again, everybody watching this live, sorry that we're late, man. You're supposed to hit the live button twice. I was running around and I only hit it once, and the three of us were having a nice conversation. So I guess we're prepped up, ready to go.
It happens easily. Cool. I've done that before, so let's do it.
Yeah.
All right. What's up, Strange Days, Artie Familia, Vanessa. Let's see. Pastor Zamora, Jen Magana from Convicted Hearts is in here. Big D, keeping it real. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's get into it. We've had this already, but let's go ahead and get into it. Jen, when did you first hear about this story, this movie? How did you first hear about it, girlfriend?
So I would say a couple of years ago, a friend of mine, Francisco, he told me that he had an uncle. He had a tío that was the inventor of Flamin Hot Cheetos. And, you know, I kind of took it with a grain of salt. Like it was one of those stories you hear about and it's, maybe it's true, maybe it's not. But he was telling me there was going to be a movie coming out about his life. So I always kept that kind of in the back of my mind whenever I would hear little bits and pieces about it. And I noticed when I was scrolling through Instagram, I don't know, a couple weeks before the movie came out, there was an advertisement for it. And it clicked. I'm like, oh, there's the movie. So I took a screenshot. That's how I helped myself remember a certain day, what's coming up. And I saved it because I'm like, I'm going to watch that as soon as it comes out. I could already tell just by the little clip. I liked the way it looked like that it was shot, the actors in it. I noticed, you know, I don't know, the whole vibe of it was like family friendly. So I would say a couple weeks before it came out, I really knew it was going to happen.
Okay. Fred, how did you first hear about this movie?
You know, I tend to forget how I heard about it. But I know it was about 2 years ago. And I remember like back in October of last year, he goes by Scar. He plays Diego in the movie. He was on the Rhodium Radio with Tony A. He was on there and he was talking about it. And yeah, and then I remember going to work, and I was telling, you know, working at the school, and I remember I was telling the kids they're making a movie about the hot Cheetos, and they were like, "You're lying, Mr. Fred, you're lying," you know. And I shared that with my kids. So yeah, it's been about 2 years when I heard about it, and finally when I saw the trailer, I was like, "Oh, it's coming out," you know. So yeah, it's been about 2 years or so that I heard about it.
Okay. Yeah. All right. I first heard about, so the way I heard about the actual movie is pretty much the way most people heard about it, which is just the advertisement and just hearing, you know, word to mouth and stuff like that. But the story itself, the actual story about 2004, 2005-ish, somewhere around there, I was trucking, right? I still truck it, but I remember I was working, I was trucking it along, listening to the radio. Not a lot of podcasting wasn't like that big back then. It was like barely breaking in for the most part. So I was listening to the radio, And the radio station used to do like these weekly stories. I forgot what radio station or what show. I think it was for those in the LA area, I think it was KLSX 97.1. The whole format is completely changed. It used to be talk radio. I think it went to like
Mhm.
FM talk or free talk radio at one point, but eventually that radio station went under and it turned into a music station. I don't know what it is today. This is years ago, but I remember back then Howard Stern was on there. Doug and Steckler, Tom Likas was on there. So you had it was a good talk radio, and I remember somebody on one of the shows or something said they used to do these once a week, like hey, bet you didn't know, something like that, right?
Mhm.
And they told this story, basically what this movie is. They told it in like 20 seconds. And I remember I was trucking, and it just stuck with me, and I just thought like, hey, that's freedom, man. You know what? That's badass. Okay, a janitor, came up. Somebody was Raza talking about like, hey, you know what? We like spicy stuff, man. And he realized and he just told the story on the radio for like 20 seconds, and there was that. But it did stick with me. It did stick with me. And then once I started hearing about this movie, I was just like, hey, I remember hearing about this story on the radio. So, Jen, did you watch it immediately once it dropped?
I did, because I had taken that screenshot. I was like waiting for it to come out. And the day it came out, yeah, I watched it right away by myself because I didn't want to wait. And I thought, let me just, watch through and make sure it's cool for the kids too. I really enjoyed it. It was appropriate to watch with my kids also. So watched it again with the kids later that same day. And then I had to go back and watch it again for a third time. And I really feel like it's one of those movies that you can watch it multiple times because there's little bits and pieces that you're going to catch each time you see it. You might not take everything in all in that first viewing, but you're definitely going to get a message throughout the movie each time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fred, did you watch it right when it dropped?
Right away, right away. I had told my kids about it, and they were like, "Yeah, well, wait up, we'll sit down right now." And I got tired of waiting. I just sat down and turned it on, and everybody went and sat down, man. And we got into it. You know what I mean? And again, um, confession is like I said before. Just like Jen, I've seen it 3 times. I've seen it there. I've seen it once with the family, and I've seen it twice by myself. So I mean, because yeah, there's a lot of little details that you tend to see, even facial expressions. You know what I mean? It paints a broader picture of what's going on. So yeah,
Yeah.
man.
You know what you said. A confession right here. I've only watched it once. I thought Jen was kind of an oddball for watching it 3 times, but now Fred, you watched it 3 times. I'm outnumbered. Now I feel like I'm the oddball. Son of a gun. Let me turn it on right here and have it on the background now, man. I gotta catch up now, man. You know what? Something that you said right there, Fred. Facial expressions, right? Something so simple that you can miss that can mean a lot. I do on my other channel on Cholo Trucker. I do a lot of these music reviews where I review music videos, and that's one thing I always look at: facial expression. What is the song about? And the expression on the person's face. Are you singing a sad song but you're smiling? Doesn't make sense. You lost me in the story. Facial expressions really mean a lot. So, hey, I got to go back and watch this movie again. But on Father's Day, so I did not watch it immediately. It was Father's Day, Sunday. I sat down. I went out for a nice long bike ride, man, and then came back and I sat down with my beautiful, crazy loca wife. We watched it, and we were both like, wow, wow, man. And I do want to talk about where this movie lands, at least for me, a little bit later on. But Jen, let's go ahead and let's start with the beginning of the movie, the beginning of the story. Basically, he's from the streets, he's from the barrio, he's a little kid going to school. always seemed like he kind of had that mind for hustling, selling bean burritos from his mom and stuff like that. He meets homegirl, which I thought she did a great job. She's also on the show Hentified, where she did a pretty good job there. But talk to us a little bit about that, about just the family, how they grew up together, and the struggles.
Yeah, I feel like the movie did a really good job of showing, like you said, it displayed him as a young boy, and how
Mm.
really he used something that, other kids were making fun of him about the food he was bringing for lunch, his bean burritos, and he turned it into a situation where he made a little business deal and started selling them. And,
Mhm.
I think it showed his entrepreneurial mindset from a very young age. And then, getting together, the two of them as young people coming up in the same sort of upbringing and sticking together. And it really gave you like a sense of family coming from that same sort of background, the two of them coming together, making something for themselves. So I like the way that it showed little bits and pieces leading up to where they were at in life.
Okay. Fred, your thoughts of that, from showing his childhood, from showing him getting together with his girl and growing up together, and just being in the streets and all.
Yeah, again, just like Jim said, and you said that it showed his, being an entrepreneur, selling burritos. Like he was pretty much spontaneous. He got he. I think he realizes as a child that he um excuse me, he convinced the other kid to take a bite of the burrito. He made it
Right.
sound good. His older didn't show to him. He convinced him to get it. So the other kid tried to take it. He says, "Hey, it's a quarter," and he just
Mhm.
takes off from there. You know, and when it shows later on in life, as he's growing and stuff, there's a lot of stuff that I think he was. I mean, as far as the movie goes,
Mhm.
I think the court scene when he's in court and the judge tells him, "You're not a stupid man." Like it seemed like he cut him some slack,
Mm.
Mhm.
but I think it all had a purpose. He was destined for something because it had a purpose. As far as the movie goes, anyhow.
Mm.
And if it happened in real life, like I know not exactly the same, but it showed a sign that he had a purpose to go with, and I think it was great. It was great. You know
Yeah.
how they displayed that, and it showed a lot of the unity with his grandfather and his mom defending him. You know what I mean, against his dad.
Right.
It just yeah, it just showed him wanting to do more. Like he's even trying to fix a radio or something, and his dad gets
Mhm.
mad.
Yeah.
He always was interested in trying to fix and get into things. It just showed a lot more into that. But
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, definitely, man. So he grew up in Guasti, which is basically part of Rancho Cucamonga. But back then, I mean, Rancho Cucamonga was just a bunch of fields. It wasn't. It was nothing like it is today. Today, it's a little bit more difficult to actually find a field in Rancho Cucamonga. But back then, at least from what I'm told, it
hmm
was just nothing but fields. It was just nothing but farms and fields and grapevines and all that stuff, man. So I the fact that that it shows him as a kid, right? And a little bit of the racism that was going on back then, and some of the comedy, man, which I definitely want to get into, but that made me laugh. But then him, kicking with the homies, doing that stuff in the streets, and also her, also his girl. That they're both doing this. They're both taking car radios and stealing record players and things like that. That stuff I thought kind of got that relationship just much better, because it wasn't like you met later in life and it's like, well, you don't know where I come from, or you don't know where I come from. And
yeah,
it's like, no, we both know where we come from, because we
Mhm.
actually grew up together and we have that bond, because that bond that they both had was something special.
Mm.
And that's what I want to ask you, Jen. Okay, so this guy would keep trying something, but he was always failing. They were living from, I mean, if you're living on top ramens and frijoles and stuff like that, Jen, is it tough to stand by a guy like that? Even though you see, like, hey, he is trying, and then there's
Mhm.
opportunity, and he's all like, no, that's not the opportunity I'm looking for. I'm looking for something here. And there's opportunities here, but it's like, no, I'm not going to get stuck there. But at the moment, you guys are living down here. How rough
Mhm.
is that?
I think it can be tough, right? It's going to be tough, but there's a difference. I feel like most women, anyways, have that insight where if you are with a guy, you really love him, you're down for him, you ride with him, you can see if he is really just milking a situation and wanting a handout, or if he really has a vision and he's trying to get you and the family up out of a situation that's not good, that's not paying the bills. If he wants better for his family and he has a dream and that it can happen, I think it's very important to support that dream, get behind it, and recognize that he is definitely trying to make something happen for the family. But you're going to have difficult moments, a lot of them.
Yeah. Yeah. Fred?
Um, yeah, I mean, basically the same thing. I saw that the relationship was really she was. I mean, can't even express it even more that it was through thick and thin.
Yeah.
I mean, from him not being able to afford a refrigerator, you know what I mean, or even credit for that matter, you know what I mean, everything, the
Mm,
shoes on the children, the just the stuff they were going through, it showed a lot on her part as well, not just on him, to where I saw he was frustrated already. He was tired. He built up to that where he felt like he needed to do more. The pressures from his father, basically down talking him from being a man.
mm.
And for her to even stay, even to the later on in the movie, she stood by his side 110%. I mean, showed a lot. I mean, I think that was awesome.
I would say this, man. A girl that really, really stands by her man goes a long way. It goes a long way. It's like, um, no, the one person that you want to believe in you is probably your lady. You
Mhm.
want her to be the one, like, hey, whatever you need, I got you. I'm here with you. Instead of dragging you down and saying, like, this is stupid, this is dumb. Why don't you just go do that? Why don't you just go do this? Look how we're living. Look at and when you're really trying and you're really trying to accomplish something bigger, it is vital. It is so important for the woman
Yes.
to be like, okay, I know that you mean well. I know that you're trying, to get somewhere, to get us all somewhere. It is extremely important for the woman to be there, man. Uh, the relationship they had with his old man. Let's touch on that a little bit, man. That's a very touchy one because a lot of people have similar relationships like that, and that can be debilitating, man, in people's lives, man. Fred, can you talk a little bit about that? Because that wasn't just as a little kid, even as an adult, it showed
Yeah.
that relationship that he had with his old man, which it was on shaky grounds, man.
No, yeah, I think from the very beginning, when it showed like his mother and even his grandfather were like, "Hey, leave him alone.
Mm,
He's just a little kid. It just seemed like he was just over stern with them. You know what I mean? He just like there was no. Um, I mean, just for the sake of the movie, it just seemed like he just looked down on them the whole time. And as he got
Mhm.
older, that view continued to be the same, even even after he changed his life, because he said, "Oh, he went from gin and juice to Jesus juice." He turned to religion, but yet he still would disrespect the son. And
mm,
and I think the biggest thing to me that that I see that I found like really disturbing about it was that the dad had no filter to disrespect him in front of his family, and disregard him as a man, as a father, as a family man, and there was completely no love there at all,
Mm-hmm.
from a child to a grown man, a family man. And that was
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
perspective.
Yeah. Jen, what did you make about that relationship between father and son?
Yeah. It was difficult to watch, even though knowing this is a movie. I've seen an experience being in situations where there are fathers who speak to their sons like that, whether, during childhood, even as an adult man. And it's very hurtful and uncomfortable to be in a room where you see a father speaking to his son in that way. And it's really heartbreaking because you can almost, like, as a third party, as the female in the room, I could sit back and be like, damn, you don't know how much damage you're causing right now, by crushing his spirit. Like, if you would just give him that little, like, encouragement that he needs, it would change so much. But watching something like that happen, and seeing it even through the movie, it's heartbreaking.
Yeah, yeah. Artie Marin saying he's got daddy and mommy issues.
Right.
um, yeah. You know what? When it comes to that, I do believe that the dad really does love his child. I do believe that he really did love him, but he wasn't showing him that. He wasn't. It was dad having his own personal issues, his own personal struggles, and couldn't really deal with it. He couldn't really deal with himself, and that's the way he kind of lashed out. But I truly believe it showed, at least to me, it did, that the dad
Mhm.
always loved him, but he just wasn't showing it. He just wasn't showing that encouragement. He just wasn't, because dad seemed like, he was struggling. It seemed like he was, it's like
Right.
kind of almost, and we kind of see this a little bit pretty often, where it's like, oh, you think you're gonna be, like big time? Like, nah, Charlie, man, it's time to hate on you. Like, don't go out there and achieve. You got to be down here with the grunts and everything. Like, don't think
Mhm.
that you're too much. So it kind of seemed like you had a little bit of that, but got I never got from the dad. I never got that he never loved his son. I always got that he always loved him, but because he
Yeah.
was struggling with himself and with his own issues,
Mm.
he didn't really know how to express that to him.
Exactly.
And
I agree with
yeah,
Yeah.
and that was the way, things went down. So he's looking for a job, gets this job at Frito-Lay, which is still there. Now, I don't know if it's the exact same place, but I've been by there. I like I said, maybe it's been relocated. I'm not really sure, but nonetheless, it's the same Frito-Lay there. He gets that janitor job.
that. Hmm.
Something that I do want to say about him. But Jen, what did you make when you saw him working there, and just him being curious and just asking questions and looking at different things? What's your thoughts on all that?
Yeah, that could go good or bad in real life, but his curiosity showed me that he he did have a hunger for knowledge. He wanted to know, how things operated. How does this work? What do you do in this situation? And I could see how, depending on who you approach with those sort of things, you might really irritate somebody, that's set in their ways and is just there to do their job, or you might be lucky and find someone who's willing to sort of pour that knowledge into you. But I definitely think he had a, curious way about him that ended up benefiting him in the long run.
Yeah.
Yeah, Fred, what'd you make about that, man? I mean, he's the janitor there, but he's just looking around at everything, man. He's trying to rub elbows when he was specifically told by his peers, listen, that table is for those people, that table is for that people, this table is for our people. You don't rub elbows, you don't go slapping hands. And he broke
Mhm.
that rule.
Yeah.
What do you make of
Yeah.
that?
My perspective again from the very beginning, when he walks into the company, The guy's telling him what to do,
Mm.
and my perspective of him going through there was like, okay, I know I got to clean and this and that, but like Jen said, he was intrigued on how things work,
Mm.
so he's paying more attention. Like, wow, I'm here, and it just seemed like he's there. He's gonna go through the motions, but he already has a mindset of like, hey, I want to learn how to do this because
Mhm.
in the movie there's a scene where the guy tells him, "Did you hear what I said?" Something to that effect, right? And
Mm.
he goes, "You know what? I'm gonna be the best dumper you ever had."
Yeah.
And that wasn't his job. He was already seeing it. Like, I'm not gonna be this for a long time. Um, when it came time to cleaning, I mean, he was going for brokes. He's helping people out. You know,
Yeah.
I just think that he had gone through so much in his life, and so he felt so down that I think he, as a man, he felt he let his family down, and he was really hungry to make it work and be more than what was offered to him. That was my
Mhm.
perspective of him, from walking in there to everything he did. As far as the part where they're telling him, you don't go over there, you don't go over here. I'll be honest with you guys. With you guys, that reminded me. Excuse me. That reminded me of like a prison movie, or like prison. You don't sit here. You don't
Mm.
sit over there. Or like
Yeah.
school, the popular kids go over there, the nerds are over here, and so
Mm.
on and so forth. And like you said, he was determined, man. He was like, no, he wanted more. He wanted more, so he broke that chain, if you will,
Mm.
to
Yeah.
make it happen, regardless of what anybody thought. He wasn't worried about nobody else. He knew what he wanted, so he knew what he wanted, so he went for it, man. And I thought that was, again, that was cool, man.
Mhm.
You know, when he first did that, and he went and talked to the I don't know his name, but the Allstate insurance guy. When he went
Yeah,
and talked
Clarence.
to him, what's his
Yeah,
name?
Clarence. It
Clarence.
was
Clarence.
There you go.
Clarence
When he
Baylor or
goes
something.
and
Yeah,
talks to him, and then it shows his co-workers that he works with. I told
yeah,
my
he's
beautiful crazy local wife, I'm like, now they're gonna start hating on him. And she's all
yeah,
like, yep, yep, they're gonna start hating on him. And that's what I was really expecting. Not too much of that, which is a good thing. It's a good
Yeah.
thing
yeah,
because that does happen in real life a lot when somebody goes and does something like that to try to move up and better themselves. It's like,
Mhm.
people turn on you and they're like, oh man, now he wants to be one of them over there.
yeah,
Now you're not one of us, man. And you broke
yeah,
the rule and how dare you and stuff like that. You broke the chain, like you said,
yeah,
Mhm.
Fred. And I'm glad that didn't really go down that route, man. Um,
yeah.
two things, two good important parts of the movie. I mean, there's a lot of important parts, but two that I really want to touch on. One was when he went across the street to get
Oh yeah,
some work back with the homeboys. And his homie told him, Charlie, dog, you got a family with you.
hmm,
This ain't for you anymore.
yeah.
Jen, speak to us a little bit about that. That does have, well, I'll let you speak on it first, Jen. What did you make about that part? Because all the other homies were all like, yeah, that's cool. But there was that one dude that's like, you got a family to think about now, Holmes. This ain't the route
Mhm.
you want to take down. Who actually ended up working with them at Frito-Lay. So
Yeah. And for me, I really felt like that scene itself was really important. I'm glad they highlighted it in the way they did because it caught my attention and it really showed, you know, Richard as a husband and a father and his desperation, right? That
mm,
he would be like, man, I'm gonna have to go back to my old life. I got to do something. But then in that moment, for the other homie to be like, no, you have a family. This isn't for you. I feel like it showed that man's heart as well. Like he could see that
Yeah,
there is something else for him and he wanted better for him. And maybe he even saw that he knew he was capable of doing something else and succeeding, and he wanted him to be able to get out and get his family out. So I felt like that was a really inspirational moment, showing that and highlighting that in the movie.
Yeah. Fred, what do you make
Yeah.
about that scene?
I'm gonna be honest with you guys, and I'm gonna go on a limb here. Um, that movie, the whole movie is in its entirety, but for just maybe some of the parts, it it really was reminiscent to me of like of Boulevard Nights. To be honest with you, that's what I got out of it. Like,
Mhm.
and being that the time period, and regardless of where you were at, you know what I mean. A lot of times the homies, that's how you were taught back then. You know what I mean? They looked out for you to be like, hey, look, like, you know what I mean? You got something better. You know what I mean? You got a family.
Mhm.
And it was really reminiscent of that old school feeling of back in the day. You know what I mean? Like it really, it showed a lot of I guess you could say hard and maybe like, hey, this isn't for you. I really took that in like again, like I said, like a Boulevard Nights kind of deal, a little more updated, obviously, it seemed, but that same morality, in a sense, without, it wasn't it wasn't glorified as a gangster stuff. It was more of a lifestyle that I loved about that scene and the whole ambience of the movie, from where he came from.
Mhm.
So I mean that's what I got out of it.
Yeah,
Agreed.
that to me, man, was a very important part of the movie because that could have been a turning point for him. If it wasn't for that one camarada, he
Hmm.
could have ended up just back in his old life and probably this time, do some serious time and mess up his record and all that stuff. So that was a very important time of his life right there for that homie to be like, nah, man, you don't belong here. You got a family to take care of, man. You got to go a
Yeah.
different route. Even though later on in the movie, that same guy went back and started kicking it with the homies for a while. But
Mhm.
uh, you know, I'll tell you guys, I used to kick it with a lot of the homies and everything like that. And as time kept going and going and going, and I started building a little bit more for myself, I started, my circle started getting a little smaller and
Yeah.
smaller and smaller and smaller for reasons like that. For reasons where it's like, okay, I don't want people around me that's gonna get me into a wreck. I want people around me as they say, like, hey, big dog, you're rolling the dice here when you don't have to. You got stuff to lose, man. So that was a very I really love that part of the movie. That could have really gone bad for him. Another part of the movie is when he gets into it with his old man in front of the pastor,
Oh
and
yeah.
the dad tells Richard, even you even got your wife looking
Mhm.
for help behind your back. And then
Yeah.
she turned around and she blew a fuse. Jen, talk to us a little bit about that.
Oh, as a female, I felt that one. First of all, I was mad, like, oh, like the way the dad was treating him, and in front of, like, it's bad enough to treat him that way in front of the rest of the family, but with the priest there too. But
Mm,
when he said that, that's like the worst thing. To me, I feel like you could tell a man is, even your wife is coming for help.
mm,
I thought it was gonna pop off. I'm like bracing myself for the next scene.
mm,
But I definitely felt her anger, and really that was her passion and her love for her husband when she sort of blew up and said basically, hey, we don't need you, we're going to be all right. And she confessed her belief and her backing her husband even in that situation. It's one thing, like, if you go to someone for help and it's family, but once they try to use something like that and be like, hey, even your wife is begging for help or coming for help, no,
Yeah.
you got to stick together at that point. And I like that scene.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was that man, that was something. Fred, speak on it, big dog.
That's the same here, bro. Like I expected it to go. I really expected it to go left. More of sometimes, and it happens. More of where the wife will say nothing. They get to the car and she starts dragging the husband out. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
In the real world, you know, um,
Mhm.
and saying you're embarrassing or whatever, and kind of bring them down a little more. What I really enjoyed about that was that it pretty much, no pun intended, lit a fire under her to be like, hey, check it out. You got to
Mhm.
back them up even more now, and
Mhm.
she really took took that, took that by the horns and said, hey, you know what? We're writing it out. Like, we're going to make this
Mhm.
happen. And
Mhm.
it showed
Yeah.
a lot. That was a real inspiring scene. That's one thing. I mean, all of us in the family, when we watched it, my wife turned and looked at me like, wow, like, man. And I was like, see, you need to learn from that. No, not right. But it was like,
Yeah.
see, rewind that and watch it again. No, but it was awesome. I think that's good. But yeah, man,
Yeah.
that was my take on that too, man. So yeah, man.
Man,
Judy, right? Judy
you
was in.
yeah, Judy. Man, let me tell everybody something right now. That is so, man, degrading. That is ripping a man's, I don't want to say manhood, but that is ripping that out of a man when
Mhm.
somebody says something like that, man. Even your own wife
Yeah.
is going and looking for help behind your back. And if that's true, oh man, I'll tell you, there's probably like, I don't know if there's any coming back from that. So when she
Yeah.
was like, no, wait, you don't speak for me, and then she
Yeah.
gave her peace. I mean, she's talking to her father-in-law. It's not like she's talking to some fool from the street, right? So
Mhm.
Yeah.
I thought she did a great job. She kept it somewhat respectful. It's like, okay, I'm respecting my my husband's father, but at the same time
Yeah.
you're out of line too, because you are over here going to cause conflict, making it seem like I don't have any faith in him, you know but
Mhm.
I'm telling everybody out there, what a way to just completely destroy a man
Yeah.
when your
Oh
wife, your
yeah.
lady, your significant other, your partner,
Yes.
that happens. It's like, man, a woman, I'll tell you guys this. The woman has great power. She has
Mhm.
great power to build a man up, and she does have great power to tear that man down if he's truly in love with her. So
Yeah. Yeah.
just just remember that. So let's get into the whole idea. He's eating a lote. The kids all talking about like, no, it's good hot. It's hot and everything like that.
Hmm.
I I thought, today it's a little bit different. I do remember, back in those days, there wasn't any of that, there wasn't a lot of that stuff. But I mean, making the correlation where it's like, hey, you know what? There's a whole, group of people out here that we can go ahead and sell to. At that time, the recession was hitting hard. A lot of people were losing their jobs. Things were really
Yeah.
tough. He was facing discrimination at the time as well. It's like, not only are you a janitor, Holmes, but you're brown, dog. Ain't nobody gonna really listen to you. And he had this great idea. And looking at the loteros and everything, where it's like put the chili and seeing his kid like, no, I like it. And seeing the idea, what did you take from that, Jen? Where he
You know
thought
what?
like, hey, we can do something here. Because honestly, most people would just say like, yeah, I'm just gonna put like everybody else is just sauce my stuff up, but I'm not gonna come up with this idea to, hey, we're gonna sell it
Right.
like this. Ready?
Yeah, yeah. I feel like that was one of those moments, and those of you that have kids will know this too, that Disney cartoon, Ratatouille, where the little rat's like, oh, eat this piece of cheese with the strawberry and with this, and it like blows his mind when he eats all of that together. It's
Mhm.
but that scene you're talking about, I thought that's pretty cool that came to him. I wonder if that's true. And I look back,
Yeah.
and there's actually an interview with Richard, and that in fact did happen, where he was at a park And he said in this interview, he remembers watching the elote man come around and somebody's holding it and goes to take a bite, and he said to himself, that looks like a big Cheeto he's holding. And then it's like, boom, it came to him, put chili on it, like put, you know, and he said that
Yeah.
moment really did happen. In that moment, he thought of, let me mix this up and do something a little different.
Yeah, Fred.
What I took out of it, being again that I saw it 3 times, uh, when he first walks into the company, he asked the other engineer or machinist or whatever it was, right? The guy that didn't like what was his name? Whatever his name was, the other guy, not
Was it
Clarence. I
Oh,
forgot. The one that
the
didn't
guy?
like him.
The guy that always wore the tie with the like yellow short sleeve shirt.
No. The engineer guy, the other one,
Okay.
Carlton or whatever his name was. The other, and he asked him in the beginning. There's little details in there that like, you really pay attention to what they're saying, and he says, hey, so the corn whatever goes through the machine, it comes out of Cheeto,
Mm,
so
right.
that stuff's made out of corn. So when
Mm,
yeah.
he's sitting down with the elote, he's like, wait a minute, like this is corn, and it just kind of clicked on him right there. But it goes back
Mhm.
to where again, if you pay attention to that one scene, he says something, the corn, whatever, mixes with the water and it comes out of Cheeto. And the guy just said, he just kind of shines him off. That's when he has that vision of beating them up, and whatever. But
Mhm.
yeah, so I took it from that to where he was at the park,
mm.
where he started seeing like, wow, so you kind of put two and two together. He was putting everything together as it went.
Mhm.
So yeah, man, that's what I got out of that scene itself, man. That's
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. To me, it goes back to him just being curious and wanting to know a lot about something. It just wasn't like, hey, you know what? You got this job. It's a janitor job. You're struggling before. Now you're making a little bit of money and you can do, somewhat okay for yourself. It's just him wanting to ask questions and his mind just going and going, and then
Yeah.
seeing this, and then being at the park and seeing how what everybody's doing with their chips and their chicharrones. They're putting chili in them. They're spicing it up, and he's looking at it and he realizes where he works. And I'm like, okay, he realizes that there's a whole market out there. He sees the bag of Doritos and all this stuff, and it's like, this is pretty plain and just kind of boring, man. There's not a lot going on here. Do people like it? Yeah, people like it, but he really wanted to reach out to a market for him, and he knew that there was a market out there, man. And just for him to come up with that idea, to me, I thought it was pretty cool. Because like I said, I would have thought like, just get the bag and spice it up yourself. There's
Mhm.
really not much to it, but spice it up yourself as opposed to, have the company do it already. What's up, Fred?
Now that you mentioned that, if you notice in the film, there's a lot of that going on. They're showing a lot of tapatio and a lot of chalula, the
Mm-hmm.
sauces, right?
Mm-hmm.
So again, it goes back to, and you can look at it as, I wouldn't call it a stereotype. My father-in-law is guilty of that. He does that too. When they serve the dad spaghetti, he takes the tapatio and he throws it on the spaghetti. So when you
Mhm.
look at it, it starts to kind of show you like, the everybody
Yeah.
puts chili on different
Mhm.
stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and it showed that people kind of like that spicy stuff. So yeah, you're
Yeah.
right. I mean, that when he looked around and he was watching everything, so it was already, his wheels are turning, and he was
Mhm.
analyzing everything, and that, yeah, it was a good call on him, man.
Yeah,
So yeah.
Yeah.
yeah. Man, what's wrong with all you people, man? Liking just all the spices and stuff like that, man. Yeah, I said it. You people, I said it. Uh, when this happened, I definitely want to touch on this, and we're gonna touch on a lot of things too. We understand what's going on with him and Frito-Lay and everything, and we're gonna get to that. But um,
Mhm.
one thing I do want to touch on is marketing. When the idea came out, when they said, "Okay, fine," he took the initiative to call, the CEO and everything. And yes, there's some controversy. We're gonna get to all that stuff, but at least for the movie, he called the CEO and he says, "Hey, I got this idea." He took that leap of faith. Some people were pissed off because, hey, Holmes, you come to me. How dare you go over my head? And there is a
Yeah,
lot of that, but you got to take
yeah,
those steps. And then so
Mhm.
it gets made. It's good. It's there. Nobody's buying because nobody knows about it. There's no funding for any commercials. Uh, it seemed like the guy that was in charge of marketing was that bald-headed dude with hair on the side. Um,
yeah.
I don't know who would have hair like that today. Just take it all off, man. But and
Right.
Right.
he wasn't really believing. He kept on calling him the janitor. It's like, hey, you really want to invest in this janitor's idea? He didn't really. There was really no commercial, and his son was telling him like, Dad, nobody knows about it. You see it on the shelf, but it's like nobody's really seeing that. They're just going to see what they're familiar with. But the way
Mhm.
that they marketed this, I thought was genius, man.
Yeah.
Jen, talk about the way they marketed this, girlfriend.
Oh wow. Well, first of all, the what happened like right before that was, I believe it was the CEO that had sent out a company-wide email, and he was
Mhm.
Oh yeah.
encouraging all the employees, to think of the company as if it were your own. If this
Right.
was your business,
Yeah.
what would you do? Like, how would you make it better? And I think that really lit the fire under Richard to think like, okay, if it was mine, what would I do? So he goes into these different stores, hit the markets that his family shops at. He sees the different spices and chiles, and he sees the ingredients that people are using and buying. And, he starts
Mhm.
to think, how would I sell this to my people? How would I make sure that people in my neighborhood and, in my area, that my own family would consume this?
Mhm.
And that's when I feel like he took that step forward and started to think of the company as if it were his own, excuse me, and decided to start trying things out and experimenting.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fred?
Yeah. You know what? And the same thing that's really important too. Though, what Jen said about the it was the video that the Roger of the company, the guy's name was Roger
Mhm.
of the CEO or whatever, and he's
Mhm.
talking on the video. And again, my perspective of again being that I've worked in places like that, again, if you put it all together to where like, oh, dude, stop, they ain't trying to hear you, they're not trying to hear you. So when they put stuff out that perhaps offers an opportunity, uh, they were like, whatever, whatever. He, in the movie, of course, it's exaggerated, I think, where it's just him by himself. And then it seems
Mhm.
like the guy's talking to him, through the video,
Mhm.
which was getting out of it. Um, it kind of kicked into him what he was already doing to begin with, But I think that also happens too when you pay close attention, and you start be aware of your surrounding, as you say, be aware of your surrounding of what's going on. Um, I mean, there's opportunities out there for stuff, and I think that's one of the parts that I really took in. Again, that speaks volumes to what was
Mhm.
going on around the company, opposed to how he felt about it. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
He saw more than what everybody else. Everybody was just pretty much set in their position and be like, well, I work here and hey, whatever. I'm trying to get to that table or whatever, and it's not happening. I'm just a palletizer, and they didn't really. They were just content. He was not content. He was doing the janitorial work,
Mhm.
but yet he was seeing a lot more that what was going on as far as the marketing. Um, I think that the guy that was doing the marketing, I think in my perspective, just based on the movie, he sabotaged them. He did it on purpose because he didn't believe in that product, and for them to excuse me, for them to get the word of mouth, get the people to get it out there, people to believe, you just pass it around. And one thing that I noticed, it goes to a lot of the stuff today, even when people are trying to sell a T-shirt or merchandise or records or songs, whatever, and they'd be like, well, we need support. Okay, I get that, but it has to be good,
Yeah.
and he had a good product.
Yeah.
He had a very good product. And there's one scene in closing on that, when they go to the park, and I just read up on this, guys. When they go to the park, and he says, hey, and there's a guy in a blue shirt, and he tells him, hey, and a blue plaid shirt, an older gentleman goes, hey, you want to tell you these? They're crazy, they're good or whatever. That's actually Richard Montanez, the real one, and his wife.
Oh, okay.
The two older people, yeah. There's that scene. I read up on that, and I was like, oh wow, that was actually him and his wife, the real ones, and then the two actors, So that's some trivia for anybody out there that's about that. But I mean, I think he got and the workers did it on the fact that the company was doing bad,
Right. Yeah.
But they did it because they wanted to save their jobs, and out of they finally believe, hey, you know what, dude, if this closes, we're toast, But Richard's perspective wasn't just about him. It was about saving everybody's job. He that's what is displayed in the movie anyway, to me. So, yeah, that's it, man.
Yeah, man. Listen, look, when he was having that talk with Clarence, right? Like at the dock. And it was like, man, it's like, I got my product. It's not selling. It's over. Clarence was all like, no, it's not. That's not the man that I met. What's the next move now? And he's all like, there is no next move. Well, the Richard Montanez that I know would think about the next move, not, hey, it's over. What's the next move now? So when it came to advertisement, it's different today. Today there's social media all over the place and everything of that nature. But back then, man, to be on TV and everything was a heck of a lot more different than what it is today. So they use their money to buy up as much of the Flamin' Hot Cheetos to go and start passing them out, right? I like, he uses his homies and everything. And I like how he kind of used it like it was drugs, right? Like he passed it out, and he's all like, "Hey, let me get another one." Hey, no, the next one's gonna cost you. Like that was that was good, man. So, they go out there and they're just passing them out. Hey, here, tell your family, tell your friends. They're just, I mean, that is the will. Okay, for anybody and everybody watching, man, that is the will. Okay, are you capable? Yes. Everybody's capable, but are you willing? Are you willing? That footwork that he put in together, everybody together, and put out his own money and say, we're going to buy this product that I made pretty much, but we're going to buy it off the shelves and just start handing them out. Why?
Right.
Yes. Is he going to put me in a little bit of a hole financially? Yeah, but he's looking at the bigger picture. Okay.
Yeah.
You are all capable, but are you willing to do this? Are you willing to go out there and do something like that? That was just badass to me. I love that. They just basically just old school did, right? That they had no other outlet. There was no, like I said, no social media. There was nothing really they can do than just say, let's just go to the parks, the neighborhoods, kids playing outside. Hey, pass them out. Tell your parents. You can find it at your local, convenience store. Here you go. First one's for free. Second one's it cost you. So
I like that.
Yeah,
I like that. They use their knowledge. They use their knowledge and what they were already doing, in the streets with other products.
Yeah.
And applied that to something they believed in, and it was like you said, it could set you back some, but it ended up paying off. So that was a good lesson. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I enjoyed about that too, in that one scene when they're doing all that and they're passing them out, and then the the what's his name, his homie from the one that got him the job, or the one that put the good word in for him. He
Yeah.
tells him, "Hey, like, hey, don't be getting too happy, bro. You gave him 2 bags, like, give him
Oh,
one."
right. Yeah.
It showed that they started to believe. They started to really, fall into that. You know what I mean? And to believing. And I
Right.
thought that was
They
great.
brought us with it.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
The true meaning of si se puede.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah, the true meaning of it. Let's talk a little bit about the humor in this movie, because this movie had me rolling, man. Good story and everything, but this movie had me busting up. To me, at least to me personally, the most funniest things were the higher ups, the suits, when he would have them talking like it's American me and stuff like that. That and they were, he was trying. It was just so good because they were lipping it, but it was his voice, and it's like, "Oh, you messed up now, little puppet. You're not gonna want to
Yeah.
look at
Yeah,
me." And it was, man. To me, there was a lot more humor in it, but that part was, I mean, I think there was like 2 or 3 parts like that. Awesome, man.
yeah.
This movie made me laugh. Jen, talk a little bit about the humor in this movie.
Yeah. Those those little like nuggets of humor are part of what made this movie so amazing, because you're gonna get there were some serious moments, some heartfelt moments, and then you get these funny moments, like you said, where it's like boardroom type setting. And then yeah, they're talking, it's like the lips are moving, and they have the guys in the boardroom talking to each other like that, like a scene from a whole different movie. So it's cracking you up
Yeah.
the whole time. And I also love the parts where, maybe somebody like higher up is in the down there where he's working, and speaking to him some kind of way. He just envisions himself like putting the paws on this guy, and
Oh, yeah.
smacking him around. And,
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, I think we've all felt that way maybe a few times in life. So
Yeah,
I
I think
really
he beat him
liked
up with
it.
the broom.
The broom,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah,
the
Yeah, yeah.
broom got him good. I feel like that was kind of unique, in this movie. And that's not something you see in every movie. So to use those little bits and pieces and put them throughout, I thought that really was great. It was very funny.
yeah,
Fred,
yeah. No,
talk a little bit about the
that's
humor, man, in this movie.
you know what, the humor part, what to me was reminiscent of I don't know if you guys have seen it, Ant-Man, where he's talking, but the lips are moving, but it's his voice doing it. You know what I mean? And to me, yeah, I found that to be good, because not only was it funny though, but I think it kept the movie going, and it kept you intrigued, and it made you laugh, rather than
Yeah.
sitting down watching them go like, well, we're not selling, and what's your take on it? And it's just kind of like a boring business conversation, to
Yeah.
where they brought that across, but they brought it with humor,
Yeah.
basically saying that it's like going to the doctor, and he tells you, okay, well, you have this and this and this and that. Well,
Mhm.
tell me in English, in the sense,
Right.
and
Yeah.
they did it like in the street code, or whatever you want to call it, where it was easy to understand, but it was just full of humor, and I thought that was awesome. I thought that was awesome too. I kept laughing at that, because it was like, it was funny, but it brought out a lot of what was going on. You know, it kept
Man,
up
you,
with the story.
you brought up going to the doctors. Unless you go to the doctors that Jean-Claude Van Damme went to in the movie Lionheart, because that was something else. Oh man, you're all jacked up, Holmes. You know what you need?
Oh
You need
yeah,
some karate lessons. That's it. So that way nobody will mess with you, man. And he's a doctor.
right.
But no, also when he's a little kid, when he takes out the money for selling the burritos, and the person working the register is like, where'd you get all that money? And then the cop comes and everything, and then he says, this is how it could have gone. And then it shows it
Yeah,
like all good, happy, like it's a episode of the Little Rascals and everything. But in reality,
Yeah.
he
yeah,
actually took them in. I mean, all those nuggets right there. Whoever was in charge of all that stuff was perfect because
Yeah.
you had this movie is such a roller coaster, man. You got the
Yeah.
serious moments where he's having these interactions with his old man, right? That's it's like, damn, you know what? It's a little bit, it's a heartbreaker,
Mhm.
man. That's the
Yeah.
relationship that you have with your father. And by the way, so many people have that relationship with their father, right? And then you got the dad saying, hey man, your own wife is going and looking for help behind your back because you can't be a man. From
Mhm.
that to seeing these guys in the suits or seeing him imagining beating up the higher up with the broomstick and everything, it's like, nah, I didn't really go down like that. Or when he wants to present his idea, it's like, and he's like, oh, where's Richard Montañez at? Right here, sir. And then has him walking up nice and slow, like, yeah. And he's all like,
Oh,
okay,
yeah.
it really didn't go down like that. This is the way it went. And he's kind of getting there, stumbling and fumbling his paperwork.
Yeah.
I, those things keep you so engaged in the movie. It is
Mhm.
incredible how those
Yeah.
little things keep you so engaged and so interested in the movie. I mean, what a roller coaster of a ride this movie is, man. Just awesome. Let's talk a little bit about the culture
Mhm.
um, of the movie. A lot of people talk about Chicano movies and everything of that nature. There's not a lot out there. I know there's some people that kind of complained a little bit, talking about like, damn, how come this movie was not in movie theaters? Why
Yeah.
couldn't it be a theatrical release? It's on a Hulu or Disney Plus as well. But the culture in this movie, I, I I don't know if I need to say anything for me personally, just awesome.
Yeah.
Feed him, man.
Yes.
But Jen, talk about the culture in this movie.
I feel like it really highlighted the culture and did it in a way where it was pretty spot on. It didn't like go overboard and make it seem, disrespectful or like they were reaching, but it definitely showed our culture in bits and pieces throughout the movie, as far as the family aspect, the and involving stuff around food, around how we work together, how we speak, how we approach things in life. I really like how they introduced that. And I gotta just this one other scene. I know you guys will know what I'm talking about. And this, I think, this is a culture thing too. When Richard and his wife Judy go into the post office to mail that first batch of Flaming Hot Cheetos, right? And they take a moment, like, let's pray together. And that was so sweet. So my heart's like, oh, this is so sweet. And it's like the worker or customer tries to interrupt them during the prayer. And she's like, hey, he's praying, pendejo. Let him pray. Let him keep praying. So I feel like that really added to it. Like, I was like, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, yeah.
And the
Fred,
person like it.
Yeah. So,
Fred, talk a
so
little bit about the culture in the movie, man.
to me, man, I honestly, again, like I said earlier, man, I know it's a complete different movie, and I understand that it's yeah, completely different movie. That's the best way I could put it as of right now. But I really, really compare it to be not compare. Um, I see it as like a modern day, not to the full extent, but like a modern day cross between Boulevard Nights and Boys in the Hood, but in a Hispanic, you know what I mean? In a Chicano or whatever Latino, however anybody. I don't want to offend nobody. Uh, from that perspective, that even though he's from the hood, something good comes out of it. You know, the gangster street stuff wasn't glorified, and like Jen said, it wasn't it wasn't over the top. I think that again, like the scene with the if you really are watching the film for what it is, the turning point of the film, the turning point in his life, and everything that happened from that point started with the candle. If you really
Mm,
look at it, like everything started to go, and she had it on to where the point where at first, like I mentioned before we went live, that he was like, have a little more faith in me than that candle. but and then he's being playful that he wants to turn it off, and then um, later on he turns on and he goes and turns it on because now it showed he had faith in God, not the candle, but he had faith in God, which is something that's cultural too. So I think yeah, it just showed a lot. Excuse me, a lot of highlights and what really happens
Mhm.
throughout throughout the community, if you will, in our views, of what happens. So yeah, I thought that was my perspective
You
on
know,
that part.
I thought it was pretty dead on, especially when you think about it took the time it took place. A lot of people try to take something and put it, oh, today, oh, it's not like that. That's not how it really is. Okay,
Yeah,
but this movie took place many years ago. Okay, but you know what? It wasn't overboard, man. They didn't have to throw in a Popeye in there, like, hey, little Bo Peep,
oh yeah,
give me some chon chon. They didn't have to throw in a character like that in his freaking in his red underwears. Entra,
Yeah.
or like or like the movie Walk Proud, where it's like, what's with all this? Yeah, yeah, soy
oh yeah,
Chicano, soy Chicano.
yeah.
This is my heritage. That's who I am, man. Like, hey, Holmes, what's with all this overboard doing this? Like,
Yeah.
what are you doing? This one did not
Yeah,
have any of that. This one
yeah,
was, for me at least, man, pretty dead on. I loved it. For me, Holmes, they did it justice, like
Yeah.
true
yeah,
justice, where I could look at a movie and say, that
Right there.
right there, boom,
yeah,
exactly.
yeah,
You know, I thought they did the culture very, very well, very respectful. They didn't go Hollywood and let's overdo it. And no, it went perfect.
no, yeah,
Even
yeah,
when I watched the movie El Chicano, yeah, which I do like the movie, but they have a
Mhm.
spot. They have a couple of dudes dressed a certain way when they're in East Los, and some guys wearing a bandana a certain way. I'm like, I've never in my life seen a dude wear a bandana like that, especially
yeah,
in East Los. But oh well,
Mhm.
But no, I
yeah.
thought they had it pretty dead on, and very, very proud of this movie. Eva Longoria directed this. Am I right, Jen?
Yep,
Yes, this was actually her directorial debut. And
yeah,
she really, obviously we all sort of feel like she did a wonderful job. And when the movie was presented to her, from what she said, is she felt like the movie chose her because it
Mm,
not only, was it a movie that basically was about her people, things like that. She also said this was an American story, this was
yes.
a story of the American dream.
Mm.
So she really wanted
yep,
to present this in a way which, could reach all people. And I feel like she did an excellent job doing so.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah. That I thought she did a good job. Yeah, I
Yeah.
never heard of her directing. I didn't know this was her first time directing, but I was just like, oh, okay. I didn't know she was a director. Fred, what'd you think
Yeah.
about that? Eva Longoria's involvement.
you know what? I loved it, man, because I felt like oftentimes we see the celebrities that are they're out there and we think that they kind of forgot, and it's humbling to see that she could bring it back and
Mhm.
not
Mhm.
forget. I mean, I don't know if she lived that way, but it's pretty evident because of how the story goes and how it was directed that she didn't forget where she came from. You know what I mean? She hasn't forgot where she comes from, and showed it in a realistic way, like you guys said. I think that if maybe somebody, I'm just taking a wild guess here, that probably somebody said, hey, why don't we do this, and she changed it. You know what I mean? To
Mhm.
have it be more realistic, to the point where I saw that too. I was like, wow, this is like you guys said, dead on, man. It wasn't over the top. It was like it's almost watching like a reality thing to us. You know what I mean? To me, myself, anyway. But yeah, I thought it was great. I thought that was great.
Yeah, I love during the movie Harsh Times. Great movie. If nobody's seen it, Harsh Times definitely worth
Oh yeah.
watching. Yeah, she
Hmm.
was great in that. But man, I gotta say thank you to Eva Longoria, man, for I
Yeah.
know certain people kind of get involved with projects like this and want to overdo it and say like, hey, let's do this or make it like walk
Mhm.
proud. Yeah, it's Chicano. It's my heritage. Like, dog, what are you doing,
Yeah.
mom? Ain't nobody walking down the street like that, dog. And
No.
if they are, they're kind of looked at as a 5150. But
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
yeah. So Jen, what's going on? There's something going on in real life here with Richard and Frito-Lay.
Mhm.
And can you give us any information of the movie that we haven't touched on?
There seems to be, a few different stories that I saw going on, and it seems to be like there are some people who are trying to take away from the story of him coming up with the idea of Flaming Hot and
Mhm.
saying that, maybe it wasn't so much his idea, but he was part of it, like not trying to give him full um, acknowledgement, not giving him basically, what the credit he deserved. And then I saw another little clip of a lady from, I think she's from Chicago, saying that she was the originator of this
Mhm.
flaming hot recipe. And so it's kind of sketchy to see all the different stories, but I mean, with all the interviews that he's done over the years, and it currently, I mean, he was working with people on the movie set. He sat down with the actor that played him. He's very involved. So I would say that, if I had to bet on it, he definitely was the person behind this recipe. But yeah, it's just a bit odd that the company itself was trying to downplay his role or his involvement.
Yeah.
Well, if you remember in the movie,
Mhm.
that one dude that didn't want to mess with him anymore, one of the suits, I forgot his name. He was talking about that in the Midwest, they were already coming up with spices in their lab. So I don't know if maybe that's what they're referring to. But yeah, I am hearing that there is some sort of lawsuit going on. There's a little
Mhm.
bit of fighting going back and forth, that this is not entirely accurate. That
Mhm.
yes, he played some sort of part, but maybe not to the extent that the movie shows. What's the truth? I don't know. Who knows? Maybe we'll never know. Nonetheless, I don't think it takes away from the movie, because this movie, at least for me,
Mhm.
was so powerful, so inspirational,
Mhm.
like
Yeah.
no other Chicano movie, if that's what you want to call it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There have been some classics out there. We could talk about the Boulevard Nights, the American Me's, the Blood In, Blood Outs, the Duke of Earls, uh, La Bamba, Mi Familia. We could talk about a lot of those. This one, I'm gonna go on a limb here, okay?
Yeah.
And everybody can call me crazy. I think this one's better than all of those. Okay, first of all, a lot of those that I just named are basically criminal element movies, which is
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
It's a movie, it's entertainment. I have no issue with it. I still like watching
Mhm.
Boulevard Nights every now and then. I have no problem with it. And the story in there doesn't necessarily have to be just criminal. It's, this guy, trying to find himself, this guy named
Mhm.
Chuco and all. But I'm just saying, this movie, this story, this just the way it all went down, everything that we just talked about, man, the ups, the downs, the roller coaster ride, how it makes you laugh, how it makes you, you know, feel. I mean, my beautiful, crazy local wife got teared up there at the end when he got his own office. She was teared up, but just a few minutes before that, she was laughing her ass off. It was that type of movie. What a ride of a movie, man. And for me to look at it and say, like, you know what? This did not overdo it in any which way, shape, or form. Now, the story itself, whether it's true 100%, whether it's not true 100%, that I don't know, and who knows if anybody's ever going to know. But the movie and what it represents and what it does, to me, is probably the best Chicano movie, for me at least, I thought they knocked it out of the park. Jen, how say you?
Absolutely. I agree. And I would just say, I really strongly feel like this is a modern day Chicano American dream family inspirational movie that's really going to continue. It's going to be a classic. It's already the highest streaming movie on, let's see, I wrote it down here. Highest streaming movie in history on any search flight.
Wow.
So it's doing
Wow.
very well. I really feel like this is something like to make us proud. Like you said, there's no goofy characters, there's no talking chihuahuas, there's no like this is something like we can watch with our family, our kids, laugh, find a good story in it, find humor, find like you said, the emotions up and down. This is
Mm,
this is a good heartfelt movie.
yeah. Fred?
Yeah. You know what? I agree with Jen 100 and with you. I mean, Ed, that this movie is totally it is a tearjerker when you really get into it and see it. Yeah, I mean, I think that a lot of stuff, it kind of will go over your head sometimes to a lot of people, but when you really watch again, like I said earlier, and we mentioned it, the facial expressions, the body language, when you start to read between the lines and you see more than what it really is, um, I think that it's on a based on a more positive look
Yeah.
on the Chicano, you know, films
Mhm.
and stuff. I just, I just, I really don't want it to be uh, kind of swept under the rug, if you will, like with the movies we mentioned or you mentioned too is again the Boulevard Nights, the Blood In Blood Out, American Me.
Mm,
They have more of a cult following. I think this movie, for as great as it is, as being like you said, a roller coaster, as being a positive and being great, being funny, being sad, being emotional about it. I think it deserves more, man, and I think it should really be embraced, and people should really come together and watch it, regardless of your race, regardless of whatever it is, to really watch it because it's yeah, okay, its core base is Chicana, right?
mm,
But it's for everybody, man. I mean, I think it's a good family movie. The one of the things, and I'll come out and say it, man. The one of the great things that we don't see too much now in films, this movie pushed no agenda whatsoever. It just cut and dry
Oh,
what it is. So I thought it was awesome, and I think it deserves more. And man, I'll probably watch it again right now. You know what I mean? But I mean, I think that's what it is, man. I mean, that's my humble opinion about it. So
I
I
am
think it should
going.
be pushed more.
I'm
Oh,
going
what?
to rewatch it, man. I've only seen it once, but yeah, I'm gonna re. I gotta catch up to you guys, man. So I
yeah.
gotta rewatch it. Fred, that was a great point, man. Today, a lot of movies, a lot of shows, a lot of series are trying to push some sort of agenda, right? Whatever
Yes.
political side, whatever it may be, they're trying to push some sort of agenda. This movie, I didn't sense any agenda whatsoever.
Yeah.
It was just the story of this guy, the family, the culture, him trying to the struggles that he had
Yeah.
with his dad, his family, and everything, man. Wow. Bravo to Flaming Hot. I am going to
Yes.
watch it again, man. Um, Jen, anything else before we wrap it up, sister?
I just feel, lastly, before we let this also be, a lesson to us moving forward in life. Something very small could be your next big thing. Like, be inspired by this. It did leave me with a feeling of walking away thinking like, wow, what could I think of or come up with that, you know, might be something big. So, stay inspired and be curious going into life. Ask questions.
Mhm.
Mhm.
That's what I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And sometimes when you ask questions, you get be shot down. That doesn't mean stop asking questions. That means go somewhere
Yeah.
else and ask some questions. But
That's
yeah,
right.
definitely. Fred, anything else, brother, before we wrap it up?
Uh, to me, I'm in the same situation where you look at something, and again, being from experience, oftentimes, and it goes for anybody. Whenever somebody's doing something, say in your family, and you're doing something, um,
Mhm.
your close friends and family are the first ones to shoot you down. Like,
Right.
Mm.
oh, sometimes it's like, oh, you're crazy. Oh, what are you thinking? Like, hey, get to work. Like, that's not gonna pay the bills, and you just never really know. You never really know. And perseverance of what he had, excuse me, the perseverance that he had, and I think that's important within oneself too, within boundaries too. Though you can't throw all your eggs in one basket and be like, no, this is gonna work, and your bills are going, everything's going downhill. There has to be a balance, but I think uh, I think a lot of the support and a lot of the believing also help bring that positive energy into bringing something out. And again, it has to be good. It has to be excuse me, it has to be good. It can't just be whatever. You know what I mean? And that's one of the things here I think is important for people to believe and support. So yeah, no, that's really it, man, on that part.
Yeah. Alfonso Gomez, your comment right there. I think this movie is the long definition of your comment right there, man. I
Oh yeah,
really do, man.
yeah,
And
Mhm.
I just had a conversation with somebody today. We sat down. He's sitting behind his desk. He's in here in the comment section. I don't want to point him out, man. I don't want to embarrass the guy. But I had a good conversation with him, and we were talking, and this movie kept ringing in my head. This movie kept ringing. We weren't talking about this movie. We were talking about, just business and business moves, and
yeah.
the possibilities are endless. And believe it or not, this movie kept popping into my head. So, look, to everybody, this is a good movie, great movie. Share it to everybody and anybody that you know. Just the way they were slanging the flaming hots, passing it
Yeah.
around at the parks and everything. Pass this movie out. Hey, have you seen it? If they say no, backhand them so they could go watch it. What a great movie! What a great story. Personally, this is just me personally speaking. My favorite Chicano movie, man. Really,
Yeah.
it was La Bamba. I think this one is even better. What a great job they did. Love this movie. And if you guys take anything away, how people are saying, man, it was very inspiring, very inspiring. Okay, good, good. I'm glad you're inspired. I'm glad you're inspired. But now
Agree.
it's up to you.
Yeah.
Now it's up to you. You're inspired. Good. Now what are you gonna go do? Go do
Yeah.
something. Go do
Yeah.
something with it. Good. I'm glad this stuff inspired you, or anybody or a person, anything inspires you. Now take it and run
Yeah.
with it. You're capable, but are you willing?
That's right.
So that's all
Agreed.
I'm going to say. Man, listen, Flaming Hot Talk. Gracias, Jen, from Convicted Hearts. You can find her on
Thank you for
Convicted
having me.
Hearts. Yeah, my man, Fred Segura. Go check him out on Two Face Entertainment. Fred, you'll be dropping some gems, Holmes.
Yeah.
Hey, thank you. Thank you. I got a new one tomorrow coming out, dropping in the
Oh,
morning. But thank
oh,
you. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. I
yeah, no.
appreciate that, man.
Sometimes you know how they say, like when you go to church, sometimes you feel like the pastor's talking about you. When I
Yes.
tune into to Two Face Entertainment, I'm like, oh, Fred, why are you talking about me like that for, man?
Yeah. Well, hopefully the one tomorrow, you feel that same way, but on a positive note. You know what I mean? Because yeah, you'll see what it is, man. But on a positive note, not the bad note, dude. Because there's a bad and the good side in there. But yeah, thank you, man. Thank you. I appreciate that. Real seriously, man. Thank you.
Hey, gracias
Thank
for
you.
everybody tapping in, whether you tapped in live or whether you watch this later. Flaming Hot, my new favorite Chicano movie, man. Hands down.
Definitely.
Loved it. Mas movies
Hey,
and
Dan.
shows. We will catch you guys on the next one.
Mhm.
All right, guys. Make sure you subscribe.